You know who's been here a long time? Horses. Horses have been around a long time, running away from us, running with us, but they've been here. You know who else has been here a long time? Dogs, watching us from the edges of the forest, inching up to the fire, perhaps, or the encampment or the village, eventually living among us. Horses and hounds. Always there are new ways for them to help us. Hi, it's Margaret Maloney, and welcome to the Death Dhamma podcast. I'm a Buddhist practitioner out here in the world, having experienced the loss of my loved ones and knowing how much my Buddhist practice helped me on my grief journey. And now, together, we have this safe space to discuss death, dying, grief, and the Buddhist teachings that help us really understand attachment, impermanence, being compassionate, being death ready, what it means to live a life so that we can have a peaceful death. Yep, it's a big topic, and we're going to take it on together. Let's go. We're not here evolving by ourselves. We're here evolving with others around us, other sentient beings, plants, ecosystems. And as we change and grow, the way in which we change and grow impacts all those other species. Today, we're going to take a look at horse therapy and some therapy that involves dogs. Because in these ways, these creatures are helping us with our release from suffering, and our goal is to help them and definitely not to cause them any harm. Around 10,200 BCE, humans began interacting with wild horses, capturing and domesticating them. Now, I'm not pretending that our predecessors in their interactions with these early horses were treating them kindly and compassionately, because just the whole phrase breaking a horse, whether that was the phrase used early on or not, doesn't indicate a loving relationship. Horses did come to play a vital role, though, in labor, transportation, and warfare, again, unfortunate, fighting alongside the soldiers. But these interactions formed strong bonds between humans and domesticated horses. Today, horses are more commonly pets or therapy animals. Horses display emotions, and they're capable of making complex facial expressions like we do. We recognize some of those expressions and emotions, and that makes it easier for us to relate to them, and they can understand us. So for these and many other reasons, hippotherapy or horse therapy can help us with our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Hippotherapy is not new, yet there's still not a lot of concrete data on its efficacy. In 1996, members of a department of psychology at a university in Japan conducted a survey to learn more about the effect of companion animals on humans, and vice versa. And so for their study, they worked with men and horses. The result showed that petting a horse has a calming effect, specifically that it lowers your heart rate. They used 3 groups. Each group had 6 men. One group had positive attitudes towards pets. The second group had negative attitudes towards pets. And the third group were members of a horse riding club. In each case, after 90 seconds spent petting a horse, the human, the man's, heart rate decreased. Now, for the horse, initially their heart rates elevated, but then they decreased as the petting continued. So the authors of this study concluded that this demonstrated that petting horses decreases tension and that there was an emotional interaction between the men and the horses. Horseback riding can help individuals recover from trauma due to the ability of, it encourages emotional development, because engaging with a horse fosters confidence as the rider learns to guide the horse assertively and build trust. The bond between horse and rider deepens, allowing for enhanced nonverbal communication. This can improve patience, trust, and communication skills while increasing empathy and the ability to feel affection toward others. The rider learns, they need to give direction decisively and assertively, and the rider begins to access nonverbal communications. You can give a horse verbal commands, but the horse doesn't talk back, at least not verbally. A horse responds with facial expressions or with a toss of its head and other movements. The bond that the rider develops with the horse can help you increase your empathy and your ability to feel affection towards others. In short, a positive bond with a horse builds your patience, trust, and communication skills. Horseback riding is also helpful for physical and occupational therapy. When used for physical therapy, the movement of the horse can mimic the movements that a human pelvis makes during walking. Different gaits help a therapist to understand sensory stimulation in a patient, and that helps to develop a treatment plan aimed at reaching specific healing goals. Horseback riding also helps with balance and posture. For occupational therapy, the movements of the horse help improve motor control, coordination, and focus. The benefit is that it stimulates multiple areas at the same time. Working with the horse requires seeing, hearing, and touching. It requires the patient to be aware of their body in relationship to the horse. In his book, Animal Sutras, Animal Spirit Stories, the late Stephen Levine tells the story of the Karmapa's horse. In Vajrayana Buddhism, the Karmapa is a consciously reborn lama and leader of a sub-branch of one of the four schools of Tibetan Buddhism. Stephen Levine was a well-respected teacher, author, and poet, and he really helped to make the teachings of Theravada Buddhism accessible in the West. He attended a gathering to meet the Karmapa, which was quite an honor. Now, followers had some beliefs around the Karmapa's horse. Basically, that the horse would give blessings to individuals, not everyone, to some individuals. And the horse would do so by placing one of its hooves on an individual's head. Okay, now some people received a light touch, but some people got a pretty good smack. So you can see where that was intimidating. If you received a light touch, great. And sometimes people who got the light touch actually would hear a light humming of the chant, Om Mani Padme Hum. Nobody wanted to get kicked in the head. Stephen received a blessing from the Karmapa, but did not encounter the horse. But he did have his own spiritual connection and experience with a horse. And that was riding his own horse, who was named Duster. He talks about feeling a sense of oneness. Surrendering in the saddle with your hair blowing back on the verge of impermanence is a little different than surrendering on your quiet meditation pillow. The Mesa had a bit to teach me, a lot to teach me, and Duster was one of my guru sisters on the journey. And so, in these ways that we've discussed, horses can help us. It's time to go to the hounds. We've said that this episode is about horses and hounds. Now it's time for the hounds. But first, some background. To live in prison is dukkha, or suffering. For 4 years, I participated in monthly visits to one of our California state prisons. This was volunteer work I did alongside my colleague, Venerable De Hong. And you may remember him because he's been on this podcast, I believe, 3 times. We're part of a small nonprofit called Engaged Buddhist Alliance. And the goal is to bring Buddhist meditation to the incarcerated in the hopes that they learn a helpful tool to ease their time and to help them exit the cycle of recidivism. What I've learned in this time is that the actions that have led them to incarceration bring suffering to all parties. I've heard stories with similar themes, and many of our incarcerated come from a cycle of abuse, abandonment, and addiction. And I'm not saying that this justifies the crimes that they have committed, but I'm pointing to a cycle, which is, a cycle of suffering. I worked with a relatively small group of men who attended our program, and they came to learn Buddhist meditation to help them make changes in their lives. Some came just to earn credits, but most were looking for a way toward personal growth and to step away from that pattern of behavior that brought them to this place. According to the Vera Institute of Justice, the United States is home to 4% of the world's population and 16% of the total number of incarcerated individuals in the world. The Vera Institute of Justice is a group of researchers, activists, and advocates, all working towards reducing mass incarceration and providing just, anti-racist solutions for the people in the justice and immigration systems. In the United States, we have an opportunity to find ways to rehabilitate our incarcerated population. They are suffering. And some, upon release, will return to committing crimes, which means more suffering for them, their friends, family, and their communities. Education is helpful. Consistently, the data on education shows that the higher the level of education received, the less likely an individual is to return to prison. And the more successful they're going to be with their job search. And having a job is really key to someone not going back to a potential life of crime. Now, along with traditional education, it's useful for those individuals to have communication skills courses, conflict resolution courses, forgiveness programs, and trade school. So the Buddhist meditation classes held by the Engaged Buddhist Alliance are helpful to some. Others might prefer a more traditional religious service. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario, definitely. And within this mix of rehabilitation programs, sometimes the opportunity to work with dogs or cats can make a difference. See, I'm getting to it. So here we are. There's programs such as New Leash on Life. These programs bring value. New Leash on Life is based in Philadelphia, and they state that they give humans and canines a second chance. They rescue dogs who are at risk of being euthanized, dogs that are in shelters and are going to be, put down, and they place them in a training program to teach them behaviors that will make them adoptable. Many of the dogs were at risk because they wouldn't be able to live successfully with humans, and that's why they were going to be, euthanized. Incarcerated individuals who qualify for New Leash on Life learn how to care for the dogs. After training, the dogs may become available for adoption by the general public or by an individual after they are released from prison. Prison officials select, human participants, but those who have committed crimes such as animal abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, or arson, they are not qualified to participate. So they're working to find the most qualified participants to work with this dog so that there's a positive experience on both sides, the dog side and the human side. In November 2019, Mia Tret was injured in a violent attack on campus at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, California. Her doctor recommended a service dog to help with her recovery. And that's where Paws for Life, P-A-W-S, Paws for Life, like little dog paws, this is where they enter the story. Paws for Life is a dog rescue organization, and one of their initiatives is a prison program. Paws for Life takes dogs from shelters and brings them to one of 3 California state prisons for training. In 2020, more than 185 incarcerated men took part in the training program. Mia's service dog, Brandy, was trained at LA County Prison in Lancaster. Mia's wise observation. It's not like anyone wants to be in prison, but if you're going to be here, you might as well do something great, no matter who you are. Another program, Positive Change, again, P-A-W, pause, the little pause on the dog. Positive Change is a prison program that takes dogs from high-kill shelters that frequently euthanize the dogs. So they take dogs from the high-kill shelters and give them to qualified students in the California state prison population. Marley's Mutts is a dog rescue organization that oversees this program. And the goal is to help prevent the euthanasia by turning these dogs into valued pets. The dogs and the students live together for 3 months. The end result is that most of the students become skilled dog trainers, and most of the dogs become adoptable. This translates into human beings who are team-oriented and emotionally aware, and who have heightened self-esteem and feel that they are able to add value to society. In these programs, The bond between humans and animals helps to reduce suffering for both parties. That's what we want, releasing suffering for all sentient beings. Dogs and humans who have a low probability of making valuable contributions to society become changed beings. Through their encounters, they heal some of the wounds and trauma that led them to act harmfully. When the end result is an adoptable dog, a trusted service dog, or a human who becomes a productive member of society, the benefits extend to the community at large. And that's today's episode, where we've considered horses and hounds and humans. I've got books for you, starting with Carpooling with Death, How Living with Death Will Make You Stronger, Wiser, and Fearless, the book that got me going and helped me to discuss going through the death of my loved ones, followed by Sitting with Death, Buddhist insights to help you face your fears and live a peaceful life, based on Season 1 of the Death Dhamma podcast, and just recently, Enlightenment Unleashed, how your pet can lead you to spiritual transformation, because during our lifetime, we may see the rising and ceasing of many pets, and we love them like they are our family. Find these on Amazon.com or come see me at MargaretMaloney.com. You've been listening to the Death Dhamma podcast with your host, Margaret Maloney. Thank you so much for being here. Come find me on MargaretMaloney.com, MargaretMeloni.com. And until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be at ease, and may you be free from suffering. Bye for now.